Hi guys, it's Maureen here and welcome to tonight's Live at 5. I'll be honest, I didn't put a post up this morning asking for topics. I haven't posted across any of social media today that there was going to be a Live at 5. But I've decided to come in anyway. Very real, very open, very vulnerable tonight. As you can see, kind of messy hair, and I've actually just noticed I've still got a pain patch on my shoulder. So just coming in as the real, true, authentic me, exactly where I am today. For if I can't be true to me, and if I can't be open and authentic and honest, then personally, I feel it's really unfair of me as a coach to encourage or expect you to be true to you at all times. You know, I'm always talking as a coach about being the real you in the real life, in the real world with real life challenges. And sometimes, you know, that real life and real world challenges catches up with us. We're sometimes thrown a curveball in life that we really weren't expecting and certainly weren't wanting or expecting at any time. And, you know, I think, you know, I'm this great advocate. I use the hashtags a lot of Life of No Limits and hashtag Feel Alive. But feeling alive means being open to all life's moments, not just the ones we choose for ourselves. And yeah, you know, it's my husband Peter and I haven't had the best weekend, as hasn't that young, my lovely dog that's lying on the floor, believe it or not. And I just wanted to really take this opportunity to come in live as normal, but to talk about things which perhaps a lot of people shy away from. Now, I know I haven't advertised I'm doing this tonight. I know that the sun is shining, a lot of you are on holiday. I know for a lot of you it will be a replay you're watching. However, if you're here, just acknowledge that you can see and hear me by giving me a thumbs up. And then I know technically that things are working okay. So what am I going to talk about tonight? I've come in and I see very open and vulnerable today. Box of tissues actually sitting on the side as a glass of water. I'm not sure where this is going. However, I'm going to talk about when life throws your curveball, when life throws that unexpected, unwanted event at you when you least expect it. And I'm going to talk about that and some tips. And I'm also going to broach the subject of death and grieving, for I actually don't think it's talked about enough. And actually, death is one of the most natural things that happens. You know, it's one of the two things that we are all assured of in life. You know, life, we have our birth and we have our death. Those two things are the things that's happening to all of us on this earth. What we do with it in the middle is of our own choosing and might be variable, but, you know, we all have a birth date and we all have a death date. And I think, you know, death and dying is something that we don't talk enough about. Even when we know perhaps our loved ones are nearing the end of their life, you know, we avoid bringing up the subject. I know we certainly did when my father was dying many years ago. It was like, you know, talking about everything but the fact he wasn't going to be here. Now, I can see hearts, so I know I've got somebody watching live, and that's great. So I know you can hear and you can see me. And normally I come into these live at 5 with a real positive energy. And actually, I'm coming in tonight with a real sadness. And that positive energy, you know, I still have this real deep peace and contentment inside. You know, that for me is rock solid. You know, I am very emotionally and spiritually very secure. But that doesn't mean that things in life don't happen sometimes. And sometimes we get thrown by things that are going on. So tonight I'm here, messy hair. Looking rather tired, pain patch on shoulder, ignore it. I shall talk about my health another time. That's not really what I'm here to talk about today. Although it's one of the curveballs that has been thrown at me massively recently. and I am having, you know, for somebody who a few years ago thought she'd cured herself of an illness, turns out I've actually got something much rarer and more complicated, and it's actually only in remission and I'm now in a full flare. But that is just one thing. What I want to really talk to you tonight about is when life throws a curveball, about death, about grieving, and about just really sharing some sad news, and how to, and this is as much for me as it is for you, because I'm going to share some real practical tips as to how to get through this hard time. Now, for many of you, you'll know, if you know me and have followed me for a while, you know I am an absolute lover of people, lover of life, but also lover of animals. And I have two adorable, adorable dogs, Floyd and Amber. Last week, my husband Pete was away on business in the States for a few days, and then we had a long weekend down south with family planned. So both dogs went to kennels. Sadly, we've got one returned. They were in a kennels we didn't really know because we couldn't get them in the normal one. And yeah, Friday, Peter and I did an 11-hour journey right down south. We had dropping my elderly mother and her husband at my brother's, and 10 minutes before we arrived, unfortunately got a phone call from the kennels and passed to an emergency vet. And sadly, Amber, our golden retriever, had collapsed, taken ill, no feeling in her back legs, and the vet was asking permission to run blood tests, put her on a drip, and said the prognosis was poor. And that was like 10 minutes after an 11-hour journey to get down south. We had just reached our destination. Now, if anybody knows dear Floyd, who is actually lying on the floor behind me because he hasn't left my side, dear Floyd, bless him, has never coped well without Amber. It's been his friend, his companion, his mentor in life, because for the size of Floyd, he's actually a bit of a wuss and a gentle giant. So here we were about at our destination, receiving a call saying one of our dogs was seriously, seriously ill, had been removed from a kennels, where poor Floyd was distraught at seeing his best friend collapse and be removed from him. And he was in a strange kennels with strange people. Sadly, 3 hours later, blood tests were back and it was very sad. Liver failure, kidney failure, and no response. And yeah, to cut a very long story short, sadly, if you're a dog lover, and you will understand it's your worst scenario, you are miles and miles away and there is nothing you can do. You cannot say cheerio, you cannot be there for them. And we were forced to make that decision because to let her go. And yeah, plans all changed. We were then, obviously, you know, I have had dogs. I mean, I don't know if any of you who are watching, actually, I think Louise has joined. And I know, Louise, you will understand this by me. I know you're a dog lover. And Heather, I know you are too. And Laura, I know you all are. And yeah, you know, for us to be, I've had dogs all my life and I have absolutely always been there for them. Always been there in their hour of need, always been there at the end, always been there to make the best choices for them. And yeah, it hurt like hell not to be there and make the decision from huge drive away. And also to know that poor Floyd was on his own and distraught when he has never, ever coped on his own. So yeah, a change of plans. Saturday, we decided that our long weekend with family and spending time with family and grandkids and parties was up the creek. And we drove back to get back and get Floyd home, who is home, confused and yeah, very sad and confused. But so what I want to do, as we are, and yeah, and what I wanted to do today was really, I just thought it was important to acknowledge that it's okay not to be okay all the time. You know, that I think I always encourage my clients and all of you here who follow my page to be real, to be true to you. And I always talk about life, you know, sometimes giving us challenges, but we have to be the real you in the real world with those challenges. And, you know, and I just thought, if I can't come in and be raw and vulnerable and share when I'm actually not okay, then it's really unfair for me to ask it of you. So what I wanted to do is really just give you some tips, and these are as much for me as they are for you. It's really me talking through my thoughts around this, as to how best to hold the space for myself. I mean, Amber was 10 and we've had her since she was a tiny pup. And she has been the most massive, massive loving element of our life and everybody she met. And a huge part of Floyd, who's on the floor at the moment, his life. So, you know, it's about, I just thought it was really important. So tonight, what I want to do is just share some tips and talk about death and talk about grieving, because I actually think we hide away from it far, far too much. Far, far too much. So I think the first thing I want to say to you is allow yourself to feel what you feel. Now that is for me as much as it is for you, and my advice around death and grieving and when life throws you curveballs. I think you need to give yourself permission to feel what you feel. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be the life and the soul at the party all the time. But it's not actually beneficial to you to deny it, to block it, to kid on it's not happening. You know, I know for me, my father died when he was only 59 years old. And I didn't actually allow myself to grieve properly at the time because I was being strong for everyone else. And I was terrified at the prospect of really allowing myself fully to feel the hurt and pain I felt. So I battled on with life, being strong for my mother and, you know, my children and everybody else, and being a breadwinner and working 2 jobs, and threw myself into other things, rather than really allow myself to really feel what I really felt. And I can honestly say it was probably about 15 years later before I finally allowed myself to face my pain, to grieve through it and to heal. And my father died in 1991, and now, you know, I can picture him with a smile on his face. I can remember the amazing times and the great times. And instead of remembering him through pain and hurt and seeing him ill, I remember him through eyes of love now. But, you know, I learned the hard way that trying to fight grief, deny grief, not allow those feelings to feel those feelings is actually, it doesn't heal. It just keeps them deep in your subconscious. And over the years, you know, I've worked with quite a few clients since I set up my coaching practice in 2010 who have lost their loved ones and who are going through a grieving process, and perhaps have thrown themselves into work till they've worked themselves every hour God gave rather than face their grief. And really what I do with my clients in that situation is I hold the space for them. I hold the space for them to allow the grieving process, and it is a process, to naturally come and naturally heal. So I think the first thing is, you know, allow yourself to feel what you feel. Now, I have cried buckets since Friday, as my husband Peter has, and as Floyd has, and probably as most family members who have heard the news, as the vet did, and again, strange vet, an emergency vet with the kennels we've never known before, you know, and kennel owners did too. So, you know, it's about allow yourself to feel what you feel. It's okay that I don't feel amazing today and I'm still coming in to speak to you. It's okay that I don't have that amazing, you know, happy, positive energy today. This is real life, and sometimes we don't feel okay. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to actually feel pretty crap some days. You know, it's just not helpful to keep it going indefinitely. But it's certainly, I think, you know, there's a great element of you have to feel it to heal it. Sometimes we feel things to heal them and let them go. Other times we feel them to move through them, to heal them, and to remember people through eyes of love. So I think that's the first thing I really want to share, is allow yourself to feel what you feel. And it's okay. Give yourself permission. It's okay not to be okay. You don't have to put a mask. You don't have to put a brave face onto the world. If I can come in tonight and I can speak to you when I am feeling so crap, then excuse the word, excuse the language, but you know, that's why I've come in tonight, because I want I want to walk my talk and lead by example that actually this is real life and life can be challenging and difficult. But it doesn't mean life's not precious. It doesn't mean that life's not good. The next thing, I'm actually just going to halt a minute because I'm actually just wanting to see who's in today. I'm not going to promise to answer some comments because I say the box of tissues at my side and I probably won't be too far away from them. However, it'd be good just to see if we've got some company. And yeah, Louise and Kalalula, lovely to see you here. And Laura and Heather, yeah, it is sad and thank you for the hugs. And yeah, Louise, it is the last kindness you do for your fur babies. And I think the problem was this was so unexpected, absolutely unexpected. She was well, and unfortunately we had no warning of this whatsoever. And also we're miles away and unable to be there. And I say it was just the last call I expected from anybody. I had 2 healthy dogs. Lynn, it's great to see you here. And Teresa, yeah, okay, it's great to see you here too. So again, that first tip is really when life throws you that curveball, or I often say furball, and my husband pointed it out that actually, what are you talking about? I don't know what a furball is. I said, well, it's it's what I call it. And I just wanted to let you say that actually it's okay not to be okay. Allow yourself to feel what you feel. The next thing I really want to share is that you need to let go of any, even no matter how momentary it is, how fleeting it is, any feelings of regret or guilt or blame. It is not helpful to sit there and go, what if? You know, I could easily go, what if we didn't put her in kennels? What if we hadn't gone away? What if they took her to the vets quicker? What if this happened or that happened? I could say, what if, somebody said to me, there's very few people are aware of what's happened. This is me just coming in to share now. But I say, somebody that did find out actually said, well, wait a minute, she went into kennels as well. Shouldn't it be the kennel's fault? And absolutely not. Sometimes things happen in life. Sometimes the unexpected happens. It doesn't mean it's anybody's fault. It doesn't mean it's your fault. It doesn't mean it's anyone else's fault. Sometimes these things happen in life. And it is not helpful in the slightest to beat yourself up over what you could or could not done differently, or what anyone else may not been able to do differently. It is more helpful to actually really see that these things happen. You don't always need to understand everything, and to hold everybody with a heart of love and kindness and care and compassion is actually a lot more beneficial. And I couldn't have asked better from a vet I'd never spoken to and I'd never met, the kindness that she obviously felt and the tears she shed over Amber and the vet's nurse. And the same with the kennels. These were kennels we never used before, and yet the kindness that they showed. And when we picked up Floyd yesterday early, because he was meant to be in there till tomorrow, it really, you have regret or guilt or blame. A lot of the time we do that to make ourselves feel better. A lot of the time it's like we hurt so badly, it's almost like we want to explain it away. We want to hurt somebody else. And sometimes we do it to ourselves by beating ourselves up. That isn't helpful, and it doesn't bring people back, and it doesn't change situations, and it doesn't change circumstances. And it's important. It's really, really important to see that actually things happen, and it doesn't mean it's anyone's fault. We can't go back in time, and we can't change things. And it's much better to hold people through a heart and eyes of love and gratitude and thanks for what they have done. The next thing I really want to say is I think we need to all acknowledge more that death is a natural process. It's something that's inevitable for all of us. It's, we all have, on this earth, we have our birthday and we have our death day. Sometimes we know when it's going to be happening or more likely to be happening. Sometimes it comes unexpectedly. But I think, we tend to, as a society, veer away from openly talking about it. You know, we were guilty of that. Actually, my husband Peter and I were guilty of that, even on Friday. You know, as we were driving down south, we actually had my elderly mum and her husband Norrie in the car with us because we were taking them to take them to my brother's for the weekend. So we were doing a bit of a detour en route and dropping them off. And of course, in conversation in the car, my mum was talking about organ donation and death, you know, as in very like, and we were all cracking jokes about it rather than actually, you know, to make it almost feel better. You know, we were sitting cracking jokes about, well, if, you know, if you've donated your organs, maybe we'll get a deal on a cremation, there won't be so much of you there. Now, that was just joking because it makes you feel better. You know, it's an uncomfortable subject. And I just think it's sad because I think we should be living well, but we should be dying well. You know, we should be having, if at all possible, our own wishes and needs and desires at our deathbed just as much as we have through life. And I think we need to, as a society, be really encouraged to openly talk about that and to acknowledge people's wishes and to hold the space for people if they want to, towards the end of their days, talk about it. Yeah, and I know, you know, with poor Amber, I mean, Amber was a dog and she couldn't really give us her wishes, albeit we honoured the fact that, yeah, we owed it to her not to let her suffer, and held that for her. And she will be remembered in many, many ways. But I think, you know, just as a society, I think death is a natural process. And I think, you know, I just want to encourage you to see it as that, not something to fear. You know, it's that lovely Billy Graham quote, you know, when he died, and one of his speeches that he'd given, he kind of said, well, you know, at some point I'm going to die. I'm not going to be here on this earth. And as we know, he did that this year. But he said, but don't worry, I'm not going to be dead. I'm just going to have changed address. And I take an awful lot of comfort from that. That actually we are here in a physical form and we are all soul and spirit. And I believe that's the same with our animals. I believe, you know, my gorgeous dogs are, you know, in physical form of dogs, but they're still soul and spirit. And Amber will be up there now looking down and looking out for us, I am sure. So I think acknowledge death as a natural process. Talk about it more. Talk about it more with your loved ones, especially if they are ill, if they are getting towards the end of their days. It's not something to fear. And I think as well, you know, it's nice to talk about it. It's a natural process. And I know for one, you know, I've been guilty of, you know, avoiding that subject or laughing it off. And, you know, I think we just need to encourage each other. It's okay. To have our wishes and desires and needs met as much as possible. So we've kind of said so far about allow yourself to feel what you feel. It's okay not to be okay. You don't always need to put the mask on. In fact, I'm encouraging you not to, which is why I'm in like this tonight. Be real, be authentic, be you, be vulnerable if that's how you are. You know, the important thing is allow yourself to feel things, to heal things. And that way we can move on. Also, let go, you know, any feelings of regret, guilt or blame. They don't serve you well. Let them go. They don't serve you well. Things happen. Doesn't need to be anybody's fault. Just accept that it is as it is. Acknowledge death as a natural process and just as much of life as birth is. And talk about it more without fear, without verging away from it. Without losing your loved ones and never actually really knowing what they would have wanted at that time. And I think, you know, as well, I need to accept grieving is an individual and personal process. I don't think anyone can tell you what's right or wrong. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to grieve. I think you need to allow yourself to grieve in the way that is real and authentic to you. And I don't think it's particularly helpful to to tell people, oh, time will heal, or to make comments around, oh, you'll be all right in time, or especially in Amber's case, you know, anybody saying, oh, she's a dog. Not helpful comments. For me, grieving is a personal process and one that we need to honour and respect as an individual process. And I think the best thing we can do for people is hold space for them, to feel what they need to feel, to talk when they need to talk, to sit in silence when they need to sit in silence, to let them shed tears when they want to shed tears, and to let them laugh when they want to laugh. And for me, probably grieving process is going to be different as it is for my husband Peter, and certainly as it is for this little chap on the floor down here. For Floyd, it's a different process too, because for poor Floyd, he hasn't got a clue what's going on. He knows his best friend and him were put in a kennels last week and left there with strangers. And he knows his best friend collapsed and was taken away from him, and he spent some time on his own. And he also knows when we picked him up, he came home and she wasn't here. And he's spending his days looking for her and not eating. And and needing. So I need to hold the space for him, just as I think he's holding it for me, because he is very, very aware. So I think, with grieving, it's a personal process. We can't force it. We can't make it happen. We can't say it's going to be a certain amount of time or not. But I think the best way to deal with grief is to allow yourself to feel it. You feel it and move through it. It's okay to have the tears, and it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to acknowledge that actually you've got a deep sadness in your heart. And that is testament to how much you loved someone. Whether that is a human being, whether that is an animal of any description, whatever that is, it's testament to how much you love them. And you need to allow yourself, so hold that space for people. And just hold the space. And sometimes that means silence. Sometimes that means laughing, crying, talking. But hold the space and acknowledge it's a process. I often think it's like, it's a bit like the seasons. I know when my father died, I felt I was thrown into a really dark, bleak autumn. And it got worse. The autumn went into the most awful winter. And I kind of stayed in that winter a long, long time because I didn't allow myself to fully grieve. I fought it and I tried to keep myself busy to avoid feeling the hurt. But eventually you get through that winter into the spring and into the summer when you do start to feel alive again. And I think, the biggest advice I could say to anybody who's lost a loved one and is really struggling just now is to say, just take one moment at a time. That's the beauty of life, is how it unfolds one moment at a time. Keep doing what you need to do until that time that you start to feel alive once more. And know that it will come. Know that grieving is a process. And I think, again, it's important to acknowledge that whilst I'm saying to you, allow yourself to grieve and allow yourself to go through the process, there does come a time when it doesn't serve you well. And it is kind of no longer a useful or beneficial thing to do for you. It is not useful to stay in that grieving process for the rest of your life. There is no time limit, but it's like there is a time when actually that natural body process of grieving has almost like run through the emotions if you allow yourself to really go through it and feel it. And then there is that time when it's time to move on and remember that person with love and to start living your life again. Because they may not be on this physical earth any longer. They might not be alive on this physical earth any longer, but you still are. And you need to remember that. So I think, keeping grief going for the rest of your life, or for, I once worked with a client who had literally grieved for best part of 20, 25 years and still actually wore black the day she came to see me, and had never been on holiday, never been out having fun and all those things because she was still in grieving mode. But at that stage, it was very much a learned behaviour pattern and a self-imposed grieving mode, because it was almost like she felt that was what she was meant to be doing, and it wouldn't be respectful if she went out and started living her life again. So I think just know and acknowledge that there is that time when you need to feel it and heal it, but move through it, so that instead of remembering incidents, events, people, your pets, whoever it may be, with that hurt and pain, you start remembering them really with love. Now, I'm going to have a quick look at the comments. I hope that some of what I've said tonight has actually resonated with you, or just got you thinking about knowing that you don't need to have that mask onto the world, knowing that it's okay to feel what you feel, and actually it's more helpful to you to allow yourself to do that. And it's about recognizing and being aware of which feelings are helpful or not helpful to keep continuing running. And I think, grief is a process, and grief is, something which will take longer for some people than others. But it's a process, but you have to acknowledge it's not a never-ending one. It's not a never-ending one. It doesn't mean you won't remember the person. It doesn't remember you won't miss them. But, there will come that time you'll remember them with love and be celebrating and feel so blessed and so privileged to have had them in your life. I take amazing comfort from the Buddhist way of looking at death, and especially death at a young age. When they say that, when there's death at a young age, these people are very special messengers who have come to this life to teach us about impermanence, about love, and the preciousness of life. And as very special messengers, we have been privileged to have had them as part of our life. And I am going to take that on board. It gives me great comfort from my father, who died in 1991, also a best friend of mine who died when I was in my 30s, and also 2 babies that I lost. As you know, I have 2 children, but I was pregnant 4 times and unfortunately lost 2 too. So, there are special messengers on this earth here to teach us impermanence and love and preciousness of life. And I certainly am going to hold Amber, my gorgeous golden retriever, as one of those special messengers, who loved everybody that came in contact with her and was the most amazing, loyal friend and mentor to beautiful Floyd, who is having to go through the process for himself. So I'm going to have a quick look and then I am going to go. Lynn, it's tiring to always have a mask on. It is absolutely tiring. I've never been good at having a mask. Heart is on my sleeve. And that's the best way to do it. Heart on your sleeve. If you want to cry, you cry. If you want to laugh, you laugh. It's okay not to be okay. Give yourself permission. It's okay not to be okay. It doesn't mean that you're depressed. It doesn't mean you're down. It doesn't mean you're in a bad place or going to stay in a bad place. It means you're human. It means you're human and you're allowing yourself to feel the emotions you feel. And by doing so, you can really work through, move through, burn through, heal. So it's okay. It's okay. And brave of me to speak about Earth. And Emily, nice to see you here too. And Sarah, nice to see you here too. It's, as you know, this is kind of I've come in kind of very raw and very vulnerable today, and from a place of really trying to encourage others to be true to who they are, and that it's okay not to be okay, and allow that. So really, just to sum up, I'm going to just sum up really by just touching again on those points I wanted to share with you today. And one was allow yourself to feel what you feel. It's okay. You don't need to put the mask on. You don't need to pretend everything's okay and you feel okay if you don't. I've come in very vulnerable today. I'm quite sad today, but I'm here and I was prepared to just share and see where I went with this. Let go of any regret, guilt, or blame. It doesn't serve you well. It doesn't change things. And it doesn't mean when things happen it's anybody's fault. Nobody could have foreseen what happened to Amber. Absolutely not. Yes, it's tragic. Yes, it's sad. Yes, she'll be absolutely missed. And yes, it was probably the worst nightmare of not being there for her. However, it's no one's fault. And blame doesn't help. Or regret, it doesn't help. Again, acknowledge death as a natural process. We're all born and we all die. The bit in the middle is the bit that we're here to make the most of or not as we so choose. But it's a natural process. And I just want to encourage you to see it as that and talk about it more, because to me, we avoid it like the plague. And, I know from my father was dying, he knew he was dying, we knew he was dying, but we didn't actually really talk about it as such. It was like, And is that helpful? Do you know, to me, I just think we should, you know, there's this thing for me about actually it's a natural process and we should be dying well and having our own wishes and desires acknowledged and our life celebrated. And I think, you know, accept the grieving process is a process and is different for everybody. No one can tell you what is right and what is wrong. And we need to just hold space. Hold the space. I'm asking you all to hold the space for me over the next couple of weeks, you know, as I'm going to hold space for my husband and everybody that came to touch with Amber, and certainly hold the space for Floyd and for Patch, our cat, who is again wondering what's going on. And everybody who she's been part of their life for the last 10 years. Allow grieving to be that individual process. You can't say to anybody, snap out of it, to, you know, a lot of comments we make are not helpful. So just hold the space. Practice just sitting back and breathing and holding the space. I know how easy it is to avoid speaking to people because we don't know what to say. I have had that firsthand quite a lot in my life. I've had it when my father died, I've had it when my best friend died, I've had it when my babies died. I've had it quite a lot in life. I've also had it when my illness kind of came around quite badly back in the 90s and 2000s, and I was using a wheelchair and people would cross the road rather than come to me and acknowledge or speak to me because they didn't know what to say. I am now at a stage again, unfortunately, with my illness, which has now gone into a nice multi-site, multi-system, full CRPS flare, when again a wheelchair is being required. And again, yeah, I need you to hold the space for me, not avoid me, you know, and I'm going to come in at some point live and actually really be open and vulnerable and share about a very complex and rare illness, which there is no cure for, and I'd like to hold the space for me. And again, just I want you to take on board, there is a point when that grieving is not helpful. So it's not helpful for me to hang on to this grief forever. It's not helpful to Floyd to hang on to his grief forever. It's not helpful to any of us to hang on to grief for the rest of our lives for anyone. It doesn't mean we don't miss them. It doesn't mean we don't hold them in our heart. It doesn't mean we don't love them. But it means that we honour life so much and see it as so precious that we are testament to the love we have for them by living. Life is precious and we have to live well and owe it to ourselves to live well. So I'm going to go and I'm actually going to be a bit quieter this week, because I want to hold the space for myself and give myself the nourishment I need and the space I need. And I'm also going to hold the space for Floyd this week, who is needing a bit of space around him. So I'm not going to come in as much this week with posts, but I will be back. And I'm not going to be in as much next week because I have some hospital treatment. Monday to Friday, 5 days of hospital treatment to see if there is any way we can help with what's going on for me just now. So I ask that you hold me in your thoughts this week, hold Floyd in my thoughts, hold Amber in your thoughts, hold my husband Peter in our thoughts, and everybody, all the family and everybody that knew Amber, and Floyd, bless him, and Patch, and hold me in your thoughts next week, because I say I have got some hospital treatment for 5 consecutive days. But I will pop in. I'm not disappearing from social media. As you know, I am always here on social media. It's a big part of what I do. I just might not be as active, and I ask you just to bear with me for that. So take care. I'm going to have a quick look at comments, and then I am going to go and really just go and hold the space I need for myself and for Floyd. Yeah, good afternoon. Look for you. Samantha, great for you to join. Yeah, it's just nice. Teresa, okay, yeah. I'm sorry to hear your appointment for your daughter's being cancelled till September. My thoughts are with you. My thoughts are with you on that one. Louise, yeah, thanks for coming in today, Louise, and I hope you're doing well. I'm absolutely going to come and visit you in Ireland one of these days, so I'm going to come down. And Heather, it's just lovely to see you here. And Yeah, Elizabeth, you're here too, and Lily's, and David, and Karen, and yeah, yeah, and Laura, thank you for coming in. So for everybody who's been here live, thank you for popping in. I didn't quite know how I was going to get through today, but I thought it was important I came in and shared. For everybody who's watching the replay, please leave me your thoughts, your comments. I will acknowledge everyone. And if one thing that I have said today has helped you in some way about letting regret or guilt or blame go for events or circumstances over which we have no control of, over allowing yourself to feel what you feel and not putting up a mask and not feeling you need to be putting up a mask, about being more open about death as a natural process, about being more open to grief as something which again is a natural process and an individual process, and you need to hold the space for people to go through their grief. And then also about recognizing that there comes a time when you do move on, and there comes a time when that grief and those feelings you're having do not serve their purpose or usefulness to you to continue them in the same way. So there is this point when you move on, and I think, you know, just to be aware of that. Don't be like my client who held grief for 25 years and still was wearing black and had never been on holiday and never gone out. Don't be like me who held my father's grief for about 15 years and yeah, came out big time when it did. You know, you need to allow yourself to feel what you feel. So take care. I'll be back. I say I'm going to be a bit quieter this week and next week. I will probably come in for a live at 5 next week, if depending if I'm back from the hospital in time. But I say just hold me in your thoughts for the next fortnight. And I say I will be back with a big smile on my face and stronger for it. And I'm just going to see if Floyd would actually... Floydie, come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. I'm just going to let you give Floyd a bit of loving. So here is Floyd, and I ask you to hold this beautiful boy in your thoughts over this time for him when he's actually lost his best friend and hasn't got a clue as to what's going on, bless him. And has not eaten, and yeah. So, yeah. Send healing vibes his way. Yeah, they're talking to you, they are. They're sending it to you, my darling. You're a good boy. I know, I know. Okay, take care. Speak soon.